Benghazi. Joining us now is John Guandolo, former FBI special agent, now national security consultant and president of Guandolo Associates. And John is also the man who created the first training program in the FBI and the government to teach agents and officers and intelligence professionals about the Muslim Brotherhood's movement in the United States. And John, it is a pleasure to welcome you to the show. Thank you, sir.
Steve, thanks so much for having me.
Well, you know, I appreciate you coming on. There's so much that we can talk about, and in the future we will talk about, but I naturally want to address the hearings and what we heard today and what we could expect to happen. I mean, these three brave men, Eric Nordstrom, who we just got a bit of, Mark Thompson, and of course Greg, I'm drawing a blank now. Greg Erickson. They're heroes. They're really heroes.
Yes, they are. I think in today's world, telling the truth in and of itself can be courageous with the environment we're in.
I'm sorry, Greg Hicks, of course. I don't know. I drew a total blank on Greg Hicks all of a sudden. Okay, so what? I mean, you know, I just spoke to Senator Wicker of Mississippi, and he said that the only way there will be repercussions, the only way there's any chance, as John Bolton predicted, that this will bring down the administration is if the media, reports on this, takes an interest in this, runs with this. But already they've switched complete mode to Jodi Arias. I don't see any chance, or even if there were no Jodi Arias verdict today, I don't see any chance that the media in this politically correct environment and this politically correct media, I just don't see them, running with the ball. So tell me, how can the whistleblowers themselves, how can the people in law enforcement, the people who care in the State Department, the people who care in the FBI, who are charged with investigating Benghazi, how could they make sure something happens here, or at least the people are held accountable?
You know, that's the million-dollar question. I think that in the last several years, and you can say back to 9/11, but certainly in the last several years, there has been a very aggressive move to silence people who speak the truth about things that matter. And as you probably know, and as other men you know, like Andy McCarthy and others, and that have come forward and spoken about the jihadi threat, not just from Al-Qaeda, but from Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood here in the United States. It has been an absolute uphill battle because there is just a mountain that seems to stand between us and the people to try to get the truth out. What is amazing, and it applies to this Benghazi story as well, is it is getting out. And there is a recognition in part of even what we would call the mainstream media, where they can't ignore the story because the people are starting to. If you remember, for instance, something that's probably near and dear to you, the story about the Muslim Brotherhood's Islamic Center that was going to be built there at the site of the attack.
Right, the so-called Ground Zero Mosque.
Right. I mean, that was a Muslim Brotherhood Islamic Center. And what happened was you had over 70% of the people, not just New Yorkers, just Americans, did not think that was a good idea. And yet you had probably 80+% of those in the leadership thought it was a good idea.
Right.
And I think this whole issue really exposes a much bigger issue in this country, and that is that the leadership is really disconnected. And I mean on both sides of the political party, but certainly there is one political party in this country that continues to make policies and make decisions that go easy on our enemy and do not support strong American defense, investigations against known jihadis or terrorists, and that is an absolute key, because when it comes to speaking the truth, the people that speak the truth get hammered, and the people that just go along to get along on either side of the political aisle well, they just get given a pass.
Well,
and I think it's incumbent upon the American people to really rise up and engage this.
Well, you're absolutely right. We're talking to John Guandolo, a former FBI special agent, now a national security consultant and president of Guandolo Associates, here on the Steve Malzberg Show. The FBI was charged with investigating what happened in Benghazi. Now, this came, I guess, under a cloud, if you will, of our government predetermining and with the talking points and the Sunday shows for Susan Rice, the whole thing, even a week or 10 days after the event, that this was a spontaneous attack. We publicly disagreed with and contradicted the president of Libya, so we ticked him off. The FBI, by the time the FBI was allowed into the country, John, CNN had been there and had found the ambassador's personal diary. Everything had been taken from the scene. Forensics were almost impossible. Evidence was non-existent. I mean, this is not like the FBI going to a domestic crime scene or something. This was an impossible task, the way it all turned out, wasn't it?
Yes, and I think there are two pieces to that question you just asked. Number one, because this administration spoke out literally minutes after the Libyan leader had said that this was pre-planned and premeditated, Ms. Rice went on national television and said it was not pre-planned, not premeditated, and that hurt not only our ability to get the FBI in country. The reality was it also hurt our ability to get cooperation from the Libyan government, because in many, they also have an intelligence network operating. And regardless of whether somebody wants to believe Libya in general is on our side or not, they could have, for their own purposes, given us those guys that did that. They could have given us the ringleaders. There's certainly evidence on the table to indicate that they could do that based on Libyan intelligence. And what I mean is they have the ability, they're working in those networks. So it would not be a far stretch to think that they could have pointed us in the direction, but they didn't. They didn't allow the FBI, and it's because there was a willful deceit on the part of this administration, and I think that's huge. And I do think it's something that could bring an administration down. Whether it does or not, we can discuss that. The second piece is, why would the FBI go in? Is this a criminal act, or is this just one more battle in a larger war? That is a question, I believe, and that I've been kind of hammering that needs to be addressed. Is we are at war. There is a global war going on that we're engaged in, and we continue to take every event, the Boston bombing, the incident here in Benghazi, and 100 others. We keep treating them like criminal events. They're not criminal events. Yes, there is a benefit to put forensics people on the ground and do recovery, because it might point you, the intelligence value is important. So long as we understand we're using it for intelligence in a war,
right,
not evidence to prosecute.
Right. No, absolutely. And I was going to ask you that same question. Why on earth was the FBI involved? And I don't. When I say they, I don't even know if it's the State Department, the FBI. I don't even know who did it. Maybe you do. Just this week, they released 3 pictures of 3 suspects that are wanted in this attack. Yet I've heard over and over again that that one of the guys involved in it is in jail in Egypt, and Egypt wouldn't even let the U.S. talk to this guy that they're holding in prison on some unrelated matter. And this is a country that we give all kinds of foreign aid to, and now that the Muslim Brotherhood is in charge, even though they're taking our aid and they're taking our money and they're taking our aircraft and they're taking our tanks, they wouldn't even let us speak to the guy.
Right. You've got to put it in perspective for your listeners. The Muslim Brotherhood. When you want to know, hey, how does this affect me? I hear this. Some people have heard it. Some people haven't. I know people listening to your show have heard it. We have an issue in this country where there is a massive network operated by the Muslim Brotherhood in this country. When I say massive, I mean at all levels of society, thousands of organizations. That is documented. and the leaders of the most prominent Muslim Brotherhood organizations in the nation. I'll take a couple. Mohammed Majid, the president of the Islamic Society of North America. That is the largest Muslim Brotherhood entity in North America. And it was the U.S. government, through evidence in the largest Hamas trial in U.S. history, United States versus Holy Land Foundation in Dallas, determined that ISNA was a support entity for Hamas. Well, the president of ISNA sits on the Department of Homeland Security Advisory Council advising Janet Napolitano about terrorism issues. He advises the National Security Council and the National Security staffs. He speaks at the CIA headquarters for DHS, CIA, FBI, and others. I mean, this is the level of penetration. So over time, and he's just one of dozens that are inside the government. I mean, the guy who was the Islamic advisor to President Clinton, Abdurrahman al-Amoudi, was al-Qaeda. And he founded the Muslim Chaplain Program. And now the vetting for the Muslim chaplains in the Department of Defense goes through ISNA.
It is
the Hamas support entity. It is
John,
phenomenal.
It is incredible, and if you dare say anything, if you dare mention it, if you dare, like Michelle Bachmann and a few other Congress people had the nerve to write a letter, and I shouldn't say the nerve, had the fortitude to write a letter saying, hey, you know, Uma Abedin is right next to Hillary Clinton. She has top-level security clearance, yet she has family ties and history with the Muslim Brotherhood, and we should at least investigate. You get your own party, John McCain, Lindsey Graham, and the rest of them scolding you on the floor of the Senate, calling you un-American, McCarthy-like. It's unfathomable that this could be the United States just 11 years after 9/11. John, it's been a fascinating conversation. We'll have you back, and thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you very much, Steve. Take care.
You too. That's John Guandolo, ladies and gentlemen, former FBI special agent, national security consultant, and president of Guandolo Associates.